Hello everyone and welcome back to the Captain's Quarters on the SS Pandemic. As we've established, I found my way here via a portal that connects my attic door to my in-laws' fireplace, leading many of you to ask, what's happening in the attic now that you're gone? Well, according to my dear friend and attic sitter Ethan Hawke, the Wasps have taken over the cameras and are filming their very own late night show, but apparently they spend the whole time complaining about this one moth who's king of the insects, and I don't know, to me it sounds like that would get pretty repetitive. And speaking of dumb jokes, the president shook up his flailing campaign as the coronavirus outbreak spirals further out of control. And now he's honing in on two key re-election strategies: less testing and more racism. For more on this, it's time for a closer look. Given that the country is currently on fire after a once-in-a-century cataclysm inflamed by the president's cruelty and incompetence, he's had some trouble coming up with a solid re-election message. It's never a great sign when your own campaign manager is advertising face masks with your name on them. Each breath you take could be the one that kills you. 4 more years? Which is why he called a fake press conference on Tuesday to spin his wheels and try out yet another deranged campaign message. The Democrats want to abolish everything.
These are actual key elements of the Biden-Sanders unity platform. Abolish immigration detention. They're going to abolish immigration enforcement. Abolish law enforcement as we know it. Abolish completely the death penalty. They want to abolish our police departments. They want to abolish our prisons, I guess. Abolish all charter schools. Abolish educational standards. Abolish in the suburbs. You're going to abolish the suburbs with this.
First of all, most of that sounds awesome. All you're doing is listing a bunch of things people hate and claiming the Democrats will get rid of them. Democrats want to abolish telemarketers, the DMV, gate crashing at the airport, and in-laws. And of course, I would never abolish in-laws. If anyone else owned this house, they'd probably want me to cease taping a television show immediately. Also, I love how transparent he is, that he's just making stuff up when he says they want to abolish prisons, I guess. Sounds like your dad describing a movie he saw on TNT last night as he was falling asleep. They were in a boat, I guess, and Tom Hanks was in it, I think, and there was just a disagreement as to who was the captain.
I'm the captain.
Oh, sorry, I wasn't talking about you.
Okay.
Third, when Trump said Democrats want to abolish the suburbs, he was talking about a program implemented by the Obama administration to desegregate the suburbs by enforcing the Fair Housing Act of 1968, which outlawed discrimination and racial segregation in housing. So not only was Trump's lie racist, it was absurd. It makes it sound like Democrats are trying to ban strip malls and cul-de-sacs. They want to take away your Hot Topics and your Auntie Anne's, but we're not going to let that happen, folks. I mean, without suburbs, who will borrow our pruning shears and not return them? Where will our adorable space aliens land and befriend our children? Where will our fathers painstakingly restore classic cars in a vain and desperate attempt to recapture their youth? This is all Trump has left. Racist grievance politics. In the middle of a raging pandemic that is spiraling out of control, has killed nearly 140,000 Americans and put tens of millions out of work, the president took time out of his day to pose with a bunch of Goya food products on the Oval Office desk. Well, at least he didn't have to clear anything off his desk to take this photo. He looks like a divorcee trying to prove he's fine by posting on Facebook, about to make dinner. So sorry, Leslie, I guess I can do this by myself. But at least that smile on the president's face is sincere. Let's just punch in on that. Jesus. Looks like he took a big swig of ice water and forgot he had a temporary filling. The U.S. set a record for new daily coronavirus cases on Tuesday, but by all means, celebrate with a chocolate wafer. And to anyone who would promote a product from the Oval Office during a pandemic, Goya yourself.
A good one, Seth.
Thank you, Captain.
Thank you for the wordplay.
The thing is, none of this is working. Yesterday, Trump got yet another devastating poll result when Quinnipiac found that he was behind Biden by 15 points and that a stunning 60% of Americans disapprove of Trump's job performance. I guess my only question about that is, who are the other 40? Do they all work at the Lysol factory? And yes, I know we've been here before, so we absolutely must be cautious. It is by no means a given that Trump will lose, but as NBC News reported this week, the Trump campaign has struggled to land a punch on Biden. As NBC reported, the Trump campaign feels like none of the president's attacks have worked. He's tried tagging Biden as untrustworthy, corrupt Joe, and lethargic, sleepy Joe, but it hasn't dragged Biden down with voters as Trump had hoped. Sleepy sounds pretty good when you've had 4 years of exhaustion, a White House official quipped. And it's hard to tag someone else as sleepy and corrupt when you look like a mafia don who falls asleep in his spaghetti. But yeah, sleepy sounds great. And that's Biden. He's a human ambient. He's so boring that even when he starts telling a story about some knife fight between rival gangs at a public pool, your first reaction is to say, don't start until I give him a blanket. And that's great. You know what I'd give to go one day without waking up and immediately seeing 6 different news alerts on my phone about crazy the president did? At this point, I'd vote for one of those drinking birds. So now Trump is shaking up his campaign, demoting his campaign manager, Brad Parscale, after the campaign's embarrassing Tulsa debacle, in which Trump spoke to an empty arena that somehow also managed to seed a coronavirus outbreak. And I'm no expert, but generally speaking, things are not going great when you're firing your campaign manager 100 days before the election. It's like a jockey jumping off his horse in the home stretch and deciding to run the rest of the way. But hey, at least Parscale can go back to his old job as the, drummer for a Norwegian black metal band. Dude looks like an out-of-shape Conor McGregor. Trump's campaign is sputtering because the coronavirus crisis isn't a problem Trump can just BS his way out of. It's a real thing with real consequences, and the only way to make those go away is by governing, which is just not in his skill set. In fact, when it comes to actually governing, Trump has had one very specific obsession since the start of this pandemic, and that's his obsession with slowing down testing for coronavirus so he can hide the numbers and make himself look better. And because Trump isn't just a criminal, but a dumb criminal, he has openly confessed to this many times. One of the first times was back in March when he said publicly that he would prefer not to let American coronavirus patients off a cruise ship because it would make the numbers worse.
I mean, frankly, if it were up to me, I would be inclined to say, leave everybody on the ship for a period of time and you use the ship as your base. But a lot of people would rather do it a different way. They'd rather quarantine people on the land. Now, when they do that, our numbers are going to go up. Okay, our numbers are going to go up. They would like to have the people come off. I'd rather have the people stay, but I'd go with them. I told them to make the final decision. I would rather, because I like the numbers being where they are. I don't need to have the numbers double because of one ship. I'd rather have them stay on, personally.
That's right, President Jigsaw over here openly said he wanted to keep Americans trapped on an infected cruise ship like some sort of coronavirus-themed escape room. Which, even if there was no coronavirus, would still be punishment, because no one ever leaves a escape room happier than when they entered. In my experience, there's always a fight over whose fault it was that you couldn't solve the riddle hidden under the fortune teller's crystal ball or whatever. Beth, I told you there was a clue in the tarot cards, but you spent all your time rubbing the magic genie lamp. Happy birthday, Beth, and go to hell. Trump has repeated this desire to hide the true extent of the crisis from Americans many times. At a White House event on Monday, for example, a reporter asked him about the lie that more testing leads to more cases, and he offered this truly incoherent response.
Trump, you've said many times that the number of coronavirus cases is going up because testing is increasing.
That's right.
Do you acknowledge that it's going up for other reasons too? For example, that it's actually spreading? And what are you going to do to stop the spread?
Well, you know that we have one of the lowest mortality rates anywhere. If you know, Biden and Obama stopped their testing. They just stopped it. You probably know that. I'm sure you don't want to report it. But they stopped testing. Right in the middle, they just went, no more testing. And on a much lesser problem than the problem that we have, obviously, with respect to this is the worst thing that's happened since probably 1917. This is a very bad thing. All over the world, it's 188 countries right now. But no, we test more than anybody by far. And when you test, you create cases. So we've created cases.
Okay, there's so much brain diarrhea to wade through here, I might have to borrow the sea captain's ship.
Arr, she's a hardy vessel, but no match for that rusty chop.
Gross. Okay. First of all, you're not creating cases. The cases are there whether you test for them or not. You don't create a fire by putting a smoke alarm in your house. If someone gets sick, they're sick whether they get tested or not. It's not like they're at home lying in bed with a 104-degree fever and no sense of taste or smell saying, hey, as long as I don't get tested, I don't have to get treated. Now to spend the next 3 days crawling to my kitchen. Second, why do you keep saying the 1918 Spanish flu pandemic happened in 1917? Trump has said this more times than I can count, and apparently just no one has corrected him.
We have a very unusual situation where something came in that nobody has seen for many, many decades. Probably 1917 would be the closest analogy if you look at it, the likes of which this world has not seen since 1917.
Nothing like this since 1917.
The last time was of this magnitude, 1917. That's a long time ago. We haven't seen anything like this in 100 and some odd years, 1917. But 1917, so that's over 100 years ago, 1917, which was the greatest of them all, right? 1917. In 1917, had they had the internet and all the means of communication, they could have practiced distancing. 1917, the pandemic, it was something. 1917. That's something. You all know what happened in 1917.
Big one was 1917.
1917. Who would have thought? 1917.
It's weird because it's arguably the least offensive thing he's ever done, and yet it's so infuriating. Just get it right. It's like if Genghis Khan kept saying, supposedly. But of course, he got the year wrong. He'd probably been getting dates wrong his whole life. Last year, he sent Don Jr. a birthday card that said, congrats on turning 8 or whatever. So Trump has been very clear about the fact that he wants to slow down testing because it makes him look bad. And now he's getting his wish. Today it was reported that the CDC had removed some coronavirus hospital data from its website after the Trump administration announced a plan to send that information to the administration and not the CDC. And I'm sorry, but the last person I trust with any kind of data is Donald Trump. The dude brags that he can drink water with one hand and identify a camel on a piece of paper. You'd think he just got out of a decade-long coma. And on top of that, we're once again seeing nationwide testing problems and delays, with cars lined up for hours in the scorching heat and a major testing company announcing that the turnaround for tests is now 7 days, with some waiting even longer.
I'm Carter Evans in California, where lines just to get a COVID test stretch for blocks. In Arizona, one of the hardest hit states, the wait is up to 12 hours.
The turnaround time for our testing in Arizona is really bad. You can get your test and those results may not come back for 7 or 8 days.
It took 8 days for Atlanta Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms to learn she was positive.
8 days. Takes as long to get your COVID test as it took Trump to get down that ramp. Ramp joke. If we had 2 cameras, that would have been, we would have taken a close-up there. What's the point of even getting a test if it takes that long for the results to come back? It's like if your car alarm went off 8 hours after it was stolen. Trump's getting exactly what he wanted, slower testing. Meanwhile, Trump and the people around him are tested constantly and their results come back right away. As long as they're safe, Trump couldn't care less about you, but voters see through it, which is why his poll numbers are as bad as they've ever been. The Biden campaign must turn on the news every day and say to themselves,
Our numbers are going to go up.
This has been A Closer Look. So many New Yorkers are needing to turn to City Harvest for help feeding their families, and they need your support now more than ever. If you're watching this online, you can hit the donate button. Stay safe, wear a mask. We love you.